Hey, I'm James, and welcome to Alternate Sides, a podcast about movies, parking, and a 25-year friendship. This week we try to keep our cool as we explore Spike Lee's Bed-Stuy comedy drama, Do the Right Thing, starring Danny Aiello, John Turturro, Rosie Perez, and Mr. Spike Lee himself. Along the way, we also touch on our work for the 9/11 Museum, how 1990 was a year of sequels, and how I recently found myself eating a $35 salad. Here we go. I wanted to say a little bit of follow-up. I was listening back to the Fatal Attraction episode, and I think I sound like a bit of a rube in that discussion.
just in that episode?
Just in that one, yes. Because I'm bringing up what I think is a perfectly fair point about...
I can't wait to hear what this is.
about originality and about the tropes. And like we said with Rocky and the training montage, is this the first instance of such and such, or was it already like a trope, a hoary trope and a cliche at that point? And I list a couple of things in the movie. I won't rehearse them now. And you say, no. And then, yeah, I guess you make a fair point, which is that, like, if I, James, had watched some movies, I would know that these things were not were not original to that movie. But anyway.
So wait, what's the point of this? I'm not sure you basically listened to it and realized.
I think I'm trying to, like, after the fact, like, make it so I don't sound dumb. Is it working?
I'm not sure I'm not sure you've solved the problem, but okay.
I despise you.
I like that you just listened to it, decided you didn't like what you heard, and now I thought you were going to say, in retrospect, what I meant was, but you're not. You're basically saying, in retrospect, I am an idiot.
I stand by my questions, but...
Oh, I see. Okay, great.
I don't know.
Yeah, this is going well. You're gonna. When are we gonna talk about this moment in 1993?
No, this one's fine. This one's fine. It's just today we're talking about 1989, Spike Lee's second film, Do the Right Thing. Which, as you might recall, is the movie that started it all for this podcast, because that's the movie that you originally got mad at me enough so that it started me thinking about this project.
It does seem like a movie a person of your age should have seen.
Yes, I agree.
Well, we can get into it, but I should say, I apologize that I'm not sitting in the Subaru, but it's not because it's too cold this time. It's because the Subaru is not in my hands. Terry's got his hands on the Subaru again.
What's he doing now?
He said the coils and the battery. Got to give you a new battery as well. Fuck it. I don't know. It's a money pit. The Subaru is turning into a money pit.
Is he fixing it, or
I don't think he is. I think
he's fixing one thing and fiddling with another.
I think Terry. It's like I'm paying rent with Terry. Right. It's like a couple $100 a month just to hang out with Terry. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not great.
All right. Well, I'm glad that you're not sitting in the rain or whatever it would be.
Yeah, it's pissing it down. That's true.
Do the right thing.
Always do the right thing.
I don't really know where to begin talking about this movie.
Well, why don't you set it up? I'm curious I was thinking about that today. What's your synopsis of this movie? What's the recap?
The recap is, it's 24 hours in the life of this block. Mm-hmm. And it's centered in Bed-Stuy. And it centers around Sal's pizzeria, as he calls it.
Pizzeria.
Owned by the Danny Aiello character, Sal. And his two sons, one of whom is John Turturro. And so it's a white business in a black neighborhood.
Italian-American, not just white. American-Italian.
American-Italian business in a predominantly black neighborhood. And it's, the hottest day of the year, kind of.
Right.
And it's basically about that and the tensions that arise and erupt and the conflicts, and then ultimately, inevitably, terribly, it boils over. And I think my biggest takeaway from it at the end was like, ooh, just like you could basically take the script and do almost like a line for line remake today, and it would be basically the
Yeah.
same movie, same message, same plot, and that's just kind of devastating.
Which is interesting, like narratively, like where the story goes and what happens does seem remarkably not prescient because it was happening then.
Hmm.
And it's the cop murders Radio Rahim basically in a chokehold at the end of the movie. But yeah, like you say, it hasn't. If anything, maybe it's gotten worse. I think that sort of police brutality, probably culminating in like the George Floyd protests and stuff, is only maybe we're more aware of it, or maybe it's happening more, so we're forced to be more aware of it. But it just seems to have. It doesn't. The problem didn't go away in 1989 after this movie.
Yeah.
And I think that's true what you say, that you could take the script. On the other hand, I would say that this film in 1989, there was nothing like it.
Right.
This was really like a shot fired like from a cannon. This was something different. This was something on so many levels. I remember I've seen this movie. It's funny, I've seen this movie probably 5 times. And in many ways, I think maybe last night when I watched it was the most I've enjoyed it. I might enjoy it more each time.
Hmm.
When I watched it, the first time I watched it was probably, I watched it on a VHS. And so I probably watched it in like 1990 when it came out on video. And I was completely, I think, overwhelmed by the movie. Not just by the story, not by what happened, but the movie didn't seem to me like anything that I'd seen before, and so I couldn't absorb it as a movie. I
Hmm.
couldn't figure out, well, what is this?
Right.
It's like on the one hand, there's music, there's comic interludes, there's like these scenes that are like sketch comedy.
Right. The three guys sitting
It's
against
fantastic.
the
Sweet
wall.
Dick Willie and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. Those whole days. There's bits that are like where they just start cursing to the camera.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Amazing. There's Sam Jackson as the DJ, Love Senior, Love Daddy.
Yeah. So many familiar faces.
But the thing that it was like, it was just too much, and so I was like, I remember thinking, I remember not liking it, but thinking about it a lot and wondering why. I knew that my response to it was inadequate.
Hmm.
Like I could tell that the movie was better than my experience of it, or that it was different than my experience of it. And like watching it last night, I was like, this movie's a fucking masterpiece. Like actually, it
Yeah.
is. I think it's a fucking great, 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 great movie. I think it's formally brilliant. I think it changed the language. It did stuff that it exposed something that had never been shown before
Hmm.
in a way that had never been shown before. It felt totally authentic. And it's the second movie of this guy. And I don't think, I will say maybe controversially, I don't think Spike Lee ever made a movie that is half as good as this
Hmm.
again. Like this is so, so, so far
Well,
above.
I would say, I mean, I haven't seen a ton of Spike Lee movies, but I would say that he's made movies that are accomplished,
Very,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
from filmmaking, like good
100%.
movies, well-made
100%.
movies. But
Yeah, yeah.
that's different. And yeah, usually I ask you on these whether it's a good movie or a great movie, and that sounds like it's
Spoiler alert, I think it's a great movie. I don't know what you think, but I definitely think it's a great movie.
well, it's of course it's very of its time in a
Yeah.
certain sense, like culturally in terms of the colors and the music and what people are wearing, da da da, which is fine. And for the first half, I was kind of watching it, okay, okay, and then somewhere along halfway, I don't know, maybe I just kind of like stopped resisting it or something,
Mm.
or just, and I was just like, okay, I'm like, I somehow am getting it now, and it was just like, I just need to get used to the rhythm or something.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah. Well,
And
I think that's
then
the same feeling I
it
have.
builds and builds, and then it's just like, oh God, like
Mm.
this is just gonna end badly. And it's actually there. I mean, if somebody who's a musician, like the score is very weird. Like
Yeah.
there's Public Enemy and there's some other like popular music, but the score itself is this like very strange, sort of mid-century, almost like musical, like
Yeah,
musical theater,
there
like
is a
score.
musical theater element to the whole thing. Like
Yeah,
that's the stoop and it
right.
does have like that, like we talked about with Round Midnight. There is this
Yeah,
kind of set fantasy
right.
quality to some of it. Not all of it. Some of it feels very real,
Mm,
and then some of it feels very stagey.
yeah. And
Um,
I think the score was done by his dad, Bill Lee,
oh, really?
Spike Lee's dad. Well, I'm assuming because Spike Lee's dad apparently was William Lee and he was a musician, and the score of this movie
Uh,
is by Bill Lee, and
so
I'm
is
assuming.
Branford Marsalis playing on this, or no? This is before that.
Yeah, Branford's listed in the credits.
Oh, he is the sax player,
Yeah,
right? I thought it
yeah.
was him. It must be, yeah.
Marsalis, as Samuel Jackson says. I don't know if that's right or not. Apparently, it's Giancarlo Esposito. This whole time, I've been saying Esposito, thinking that was his name.
Esposito. Is it
He's
Esposito?
Italian. Yeah, I saw a interview with him. He's like, "What's your
Oh
name?"
yeah,
Giancarlo
Giancarlo. That's
Esposito.
right, Giancarlo. That makes sense actually.
Giancarlo
Giancarlo
Esposito.
Esposito. That's funny.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing, I mean, in case just to round out the kind of synopsis, Spike Lee himself plays this character Mookie, who's like, again, like the more I watch, the more I've thought about it. A really interesting character who's like, just wants to get paid, right?
Yeah,
Like straddling the two worlds, the
yeah,
Italian American world, the black world. Like in the beginning, he's wearing like the Jackie Robinson jersey,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and then at the end, he's wearing the Sal's jersey,
yeah.
Sal's Pizzeria, and then of course he's the one that actually he's the one who sort of lights the final spark. That
So one time of watching this, I remember I watched it with my parents. Maybe the second or third time that I watched the movie, I showed it to my parents. It's like, I think you guys should watch this movie. And I remember my dad was so upset when Mookie throws the garbage can through the
mm,
window. He couldn't reconcile that action with what had gone before. And it's a really interesting, I think, generational thing because I think that if you showed that film today, if that film was shown to someone for the first time who lives in this current climate, they would have no question about
mm.
what Mookie does in that moment.
I read a thing where Spike Lee, there's this thing of like, is Mookie doing the right thing or not in that moment? And he said only white people ever ask that question.
Exactly,
Mm.
exactly. Exactly. And I think that is an interesting, maybe that is a tiny glimpse of hope that we have, our thinking has evolved since 1989, because I do think the audience in 1989 had a lot more difficulty with that action
Yeah.
than they would in 2024. But it was this very, it was that, yeah, it was a real, I remember my dad was like just so upset by it.
Yeah, it's well done. And so by the end, I was like, wow, this is pretty incredible. And then this morning I was thinking about it, and it really is like you could write quite a number of essays about this movie, different aspects of it, and the characters and the culture clash, and like what it was like then, what it's like now, what's changed, what hasn't, and
It's also just an amazing feat. Like for your second movie, it's made with such confidence. It's like it because it combines this sort of intimate, like I say, sketch, like we said, show, like kind of slightly stagey, showy thing. But then it's doing these. He's also like clearly there's the NYU film student in him as
mm,
well that is
yeah,
like excited about taking the camera from inside the bedroom all the way out through the
right.
window,
I noticed
turning it
that. I
around,
noticed
coming
that
down.
moment. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's like he also wants to show you like I'm not just some black kid from Bed-Stuy. I am a filmmaker and I know how to move the camera. I know how to tell the story this way visually as well, which
but
is
we've
really
talked
interesting.
about moments in movies where, like in Fanny and Alexander, where the kids are in the trunk and the stepfather goes running upstairs and what's his name, who's the
Erland, yeah.
yeah, calls, like conjures them or whatever, and how that's like doesn't fit with like the rules of the movie that have been set up, but somehow
Yeah.
it works. And I was thinking about that here, that like that moment of like breaking the fourth wall, direct to camera, like insult, where you just get each of the characters like, and I'm sure connecting it back to Fatal Attraction and my ignorance of movie tropes, like I'm sure that had been done before, but it's kind of out of nowhere in this movie and totally works and seems to fit in.
I think part of it is that because it does have a collage kind of feel to it, it's not just a straight narrative told from a straight point of view, right? So
Right.
I think that the insult to camera section is set up by the Radio Raheem love and hate story. If you notice, there's the moment where the camera is a two shot, and it's Mookie and Radio Raheem talking, and Radio Raheem's got the two rings, the knuckle rings, love and hate, and he says, tell me the story, and the camera basically moves over and takes over Mookie's POV, so that Radio Raheem is doing it right to us,
Right.
and then when he's done, it moves away, and so
Right.
in one shot, he's giving you like the filmmaker's perspective and then Mookie's perspective and both. And then when we come back later on, he's also doing all these like Dutch angles
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
whole time. So he's always saying, look at this. This is not real. This is not real. This is not real. This is not real. Even the three guys on the corner with the painted red wall,
Yeah.
even the look of it, the way I remember thinking, how did they make it feel hot? Like the whole look of the film is just dripping like
Yeah.
that warm, saturated colors, and you feel hot just watching. And if you spent a New York like July, August day when it's just unbearably hot and smelly, and people do start to lose their minds.
Oh, I hate it. I
It's
hate it.
awful. Yeah,
Be
it's
on the
like,
subway platform on a day
oh
like
yeah, you're
that.
just
Just the
dripping,
worst. Yeah.
dripping sweat.
Oh
Exactly,
God.
pouring off of you.
But why would? But why? Why do the like? Why draw attention to the fact that it's not real? Is that to create a certain distance?
Yeah, it makes it more digestible, definitely. Yeah, because there's like you could do the Dardenne brothers version of this movie, which would look very
Oh
different.
boy,
And oh my God, it would
that would
just
be
be
tough to
from the
sit through.
minute one, they would be like, oh, something bad's gonna happen.
Yeah. Is it the first like 10 or 15 minutes of their movie, The Sun, where you're just
Oh
like
yeah.
handheld right behind that guy, following him around.
Yeah,
And
you
just
know.
somehow from the beginning, you just know something bad is happening.
Your
It's just,
stomach is just
yeah.
always tense. But like to me, it's like this young, brash kid. I mean, how old was Spike Lee when he made this? Couldn't have been, was he 30?
Yeah, something like that. 31,
That's
32.
crazy. He really knocked it out of the park. He used to hang out with my uncle, apparently. Spike Lee used to come over on the apartment that you've been to on the Upper West Side.
Oh,
He used
yeah.
to come and have tea with Hamid. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I love in this movie how he's able to do comedy and tragedy in the same movie. Like it's a very funny movie. There's so much that's really fun. Like Rosie Perez. First of all, let's talk about the credit sequence. Right from the get, I fucking love that credit sequence so much. Rosie Perez dancing to Fight the Power. It's so good. Like that's to me is like that's how you get the audience in. Like
Yeah.
I turn it on, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Let's just fucking awesome.
Hmm.
But I don't know if like subsequent movies that he made or anyone else made, it does feel like just of its own kind. Even like I guess a movie like Mo Better Blues is maybe the closest that he did something like this, but it's not really.
Hmm.
And certainly when he gets to like the more traditional kind of movie, there's Malcolm X, and then there's like the thrillers and like 25th Hour, Inside Man. Those feel like just to me kind of
Breaking
well
News.
made, like you were saying, well made.
I like Inside Man a lot. I recently rewatched that. I saw it when it came out, and then I saw it again last year. Very good. Clive Owen.
Is the ending good? I remember not liking the ending.
Is the ending good? I forget what happens in the end. Oh, in the end, he like switcheroos on the Jodie Foster character
Yeah.
or the Christopher Plummer character.
It felt a bit neat or something. I don't know. I don't know.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
neat. I love when it's tied
Tie
up in a nice
all-
little bow. Yeah, that's what
tie
I
them
want.
all. I don't like
That's what I want. I want all the extra points to touch at the end and just be nicely wrapped up.
No, I like a mess. I like a bit of mess. Rosie Perez, who I think like where did she come from, right? She was not a known person.
Well, I was reading about this movie today, and apparently Spike Lee saw her dancing in some
really?
club or something and asked her to be in the
To
movie.
do not only do the credit sequence, but be Mookie's.
And was she known as a dancer? I only knew her as from like later days, like Fearless and roles like that. So she's a hell of a dancer.
White men can't jump. Isn't she in that?
Never seen it.
Of course. She's great. So she and I worked together when on the 9/11, we did a series of 9/11 memorial museum commercials. And our friends Lexi and Fisher, actually, who lived next door to her, where they were like, I was like, I need someone, to be like kind of a spokesman. They were like, what about Rosie? I was like, perfect. Like a New Yorker. Like we need a New Yorker to come in here and like do it. She was so great. And it was really fun to hang out with her for the day. She was very, very sweet.
You made quite a, lucrative career out of memorializing a terrible tragedy, didn't you? With 9/11, you've done a number of.
I know one doesn't like to think of it in those crass terms, James. But I did do a number of commercials for them. It's
If
true.
it were up to you, we would truly never forget because
Never
we're
ever forget.
constantly memorializing.
You would have thought that the museum was enough, but we had to also do a campaign.
I was involved in the museum, as you may recall. My music was with Obama. Obama's talking my music's from the back
Oh,
at
that's right.
at the
That's right. We did
dedication ceremony.
that was the opening. What was that guy's name? The director of that?
Don Mischer.
Mischer. That's awesome.
Yeah, Don Mischer,
He was
director
the
of many,
He does the
yeah,
Oscars, right? Yeah, yeah. He's like the big
and
time
sports guy, like Super Bowls and stuff. I think he's just like a big TV event, like
live. If
yeah.
you have a live TV event, call Don Mischer.
And weren't you in the control room with him at some point or something?
I was cutting stuff. No, we were doing the pre, there was videos that they would, like if you say, let's say you did in the Oscars, the in memoriam section.
Right.
So you cut that together. And so I had cut a version together, and then he came and sat with me, and he would do this thing that I always remember. He loved long fades, like that kind of, which are very frowned on in like movies. Like when we're cutting, usually people are like, no, just cut, no dissolves. But Mischer loved the long fade, and while the fade's going, he would count, and he would just kind of go. So I would put it in, and he would go, and one, two, three, four, out. And that's how you knew how long the fade had to
Yeah.
be. And he loved the long dissolve.
Amazing.
It was cool. He was a cool guy. Everyone was terrified of him.
Huh.
He had like three assistants getting his sandwiches, and everything had to be, he doesn't like tomatoes. No, no, no tomatoes for Don.
I just looked him up here. He's won 15 Emmys, 10 DGA awards, 2 NAACP Image Awards, a Peabody Award,
Awesome.
Norman
Is he
Lear
still
Achievement.
around?
He's 84, still living. Yeah.
Good for him. He was fun. He was good.
Oh, he's the one. He's the one who did the More Balloons.
More balloons. That's him, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
That was in the early days of Facebook. You would have a quote with your profile, your name or a quote, and that was my quote. Was Don Mischer? I think it was the Democratic National Convention in like 2004, and that was Kerry, right? That was the Kerry Bush.
Oh yeah.
And it's the big moment where they finally announce Kerry's the nominee, and they're supposed to like release all these balloons that fall down, and the balloons don't come.
That's not enough.
And
Yeah.
so he's on like a hot mic, and he's saying like, more balloons, come on, keep them coming, more balloons, whatever. But on the page, it reads almost like this Samuel Beckett monologue. Keep them coming, keep them coming. Like it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. It's good. It's words to live by.
What the fuck are you guys doing up there? More balloons, more balloons. I'm going to link to that in the show notes so that
That's
because
awesome.
it's yeah.
Yeah, it is good. I didn't know it until I remember you told me about that. That's funny. Yeah, so the great Don Mischer.
So, is it a good movie? Is it a great movie? It sounds like it's a pretty great movie.
It's a fucking great movie, I think.
It also was part of that moment of that like American independent cinema coming up of Soderbergh and so on. This movie and like Sex, Lies, and Videotape, and I just remember that period there being a few
And
movies.
it's another of the movies that kind of defined my idea of A, what a movie could be, and B, what New York, a part of New York, a version of New York that was not in the Woody Allen movies or in the Martin Scorsese movies, but was in Your cat is about to chew your
It's,
microphone.
I don't know what she's doing. She's come up and she's giving me some attention.
Some untoward attention. Um, and so, yeah, so it kind of it was another of the things that when I came to New York, it was another of those kind of reference points for me, landmarks of this is also New York and cinema, like
Right.
this thing. And it's funny because I live now 20 minutes walk from where this movie is shot.
The neighborhood's quite different now, I'm sure.
It's, you know what, it is different. Yeah, it is different, but there are pockets of it that aren't that different. It's not as unrecognizable, I would say, as certain places. Like if you look at
Williamsburg.
yeah, Williamsburg, or even if you look at like the Basquiat Soho,
Right.
that is not what is there anymore, you know?
Molly and I came up to New York this week to, well, I'll just give a little plug for it. Our friend Thea has directed a film called Wicked Little Letters, starring Olivia Colman and Jessie Buckley, both of whom are dynamite. Olivia Colman's so good.
She's always terrific.
Anyway, they were both there. Anyway, we came up to watch the movie, and it was at the Crosby Street Hotel or whatever in the basement, and we were driving around, and I was like, man, this is not the after hours
No,
Soho. It's
no.
it's so crazy. I did enjoy like a $35 salad before the screening.
I hope it was very enjoyable.
I mean, it really was just like some leaves of lettuce and
It's
a
so
few
ridiculous.
olives and a little drizzle of olive oil, and it's like $35.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy. Cocktails became over $20. Salads became over $30. It's just like, I don't know. Every time we go out, I don't understand how anyone exists in this town.
I don't know how they do either. I mean, especially Manhattan. It's really,
It's insane.
yeah, Olivia Colman is fantastic in that movie.
She's one of these like remarkable actors who I'm not quite sure. I can't quite put my finger on what it is that she does. Why is it that she's always so good? There's just like some inability to be false.
Hmm.
It's like everything she does is genuine and everything is interesting and without being showy, without seeming, yeah, over the top. It's contained, but completely right.
Yeah.
I don't know how she does it.
She's amazing in this too. There are some moments of just she's able to convey, like we talked about De Niro in Heat, that moment where he's in the car
Yeah.
and changes his
Yeah.
mind. Like there are sort of moments like, nothing as pivotal as that in this movie, but just little moments of like you see what's happening for her
Yeah.
in such like a subtle, just like shift of the mouth
Yeah.
almost, and you kind of get the whole thing. It's really
Yeah.
something. And it's also got Timothy Spall in it.
Oh, he's
They play
awesome.
father-daughter. It's really some
He's
great,
so good.
great acting. Yeah.
He's amazing.
All right. Any last words on Do the Right Thing, or shall we pivot to? We're entering the '90s now.
This is it. The start of a new decade. I love it.
1990. George H.W. Bush was the president of the United States.
Margaret Thatcher was still the prime minister. Is this the year that she gets booted? 1990?
I think so. Right. John Major comes in. Yeah.
That's so exciting.
Oh, geez. This was a year of sequels.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all from 1990. Die Hard 2,
Not good.
Predator 2,
Not good.
RoboCop 2,
Not good.
Gremlins 2,
Not good.
Never Ending Story 2,
Not good.
Look Who's Talking 2,
Really not good.
Another 48 Hours,
Not good.
and then Exorcist 3,
I haven't seen that one.
The Godfather Part 3,
Not as good as 1 and 2.
Back to the Future Part 3,
No, not as good as 1 or 2.
Rocky 5,
Oh, God.
which my mother's in, and then a couple of swankier, perhaps, sequels.
So all those were shit. Can we just agree that all of those movies were shit? It's amazing. It's just amazing. Sorry, carry on. All that effort could have been, if all that effort was directed towards making like half as many of those, something that was like the Die Hard one, or all those movies. Obviously, there's a number 2 because number 1 was good, but somehow they think they're going to do it again.
But it was also the year of two slightly more highbrow, if I can put it that way, sequels. Texasville, which is the sequel to The Last Picture Show, Bogdanovich.
I've never. Wait, who made that? Bogdanovich made it?
Yeah, yeah.
I've never seen that. I didn't even know that. This is the first time hearing about this. Bogdanovich made a sequel to The Last Picture Show, which must be like what, 30, no, 20 something years apart as well, right?
Yes, it's based on the novel by Larry McMurtry.
Huh.
Scott Bridges is 33 years after the. Yeah,
The same character. He comes back and plays the same character?
I guess so. Yeah.
Huh. Okay, that's more that does sound more interesting. Although I haven't heard of it, so it couldn't have been that good.
Yeah, I don't think it's that great, but and then also The Two Jakes, the sequel to Chinatown.
Someone was just saying online that they think The Two Jakes is better than Chinatown. Obviously, someone has to take that
What?
position. Yeah, yeah. But I was thinking I haven't seen it since. Have you seen it? Is that in our list?
I have not seen it, but I don't think we're going to land on that
Okay, well, it's
because
got to be on the list.
all right, we'll put that on the list. Two Jakes. It's just very briefly, so movies from 1990 that I have seen. Here are three that I have seen many times. Goodfellas,
Mm,
Miller's Crossing,
good.
Wild at Heart.
Oh yeah, good movies.
I've seen each of those at least 5 times. I mean, I don't even know how many times the pieces of Goodfellas. Anytime that's on, you can't not watch
You
it.
get sucked into the end. Yeah.
What else? The Hunt for Red October, which I only saw for the first time last year. Love it. That's my kind of movie. Home Alone, which I only saw for the first time last year.
That's like, I mean, that's right there. That statement is hilarious.
Presumed Innocent, which I only saw for the first time a year or two ago.
Oh, I'm sure
that
you
also
like
is
that.
my
That's your,
fucking
that's
love
a
it.
James
Love
Levino
it. Oh
movie.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Nice tight thriller with Harrison Ford.
I'm telling you, that checks all the boxes of the Levino
It
scorecard.
does. It's twisty turny. It's got peak
Satisfying.
peak-ish. Yeah, satisfying. All at the end, everything's
Safe. You
tied
don't have
up.
to worry. You don't have to
Everything's
worry.
tied up nice and neatly.
Nothing too bad's gonna happen. You'll be all right. You can eat popcorn during that movie.
It's a bit twisty though because it turns out he's the spoiler alert. Harrison Ford is the bad guy in that. Okay, Awakenings, which I only saw for the first time a year or two ago.
That's a good movie. I think that's a good movie. Exactly.
Okay. All right, here are some movies I have not seen. 1990. The Two Jakes. There's a sequel to Chinatown.
Yeah.
Green Card. I only mention it because it's the only Peter Weir movie I have not seen.
I didn't even realize it was a Peter Weir movie. With Gérard Depardieu, your favorite, the guy that everyone is telling
I don't
raped
think
someone.
He's my favorite. Why is he my favorite? Because he's rapey?
Because he's a big fat rapey French guy.
Like none of those qualities should make you think of me.
No, I was joking, but I do. There's something inherently like grotesque and comic in like about Gérard Depardieu. Yeah. Now he's also like the size of a barn. Like he's
Well, he was considered quite sexy and handsome in the day. And now he's become this bloated.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Hasn't aged well.
No. Okay, some good ones in here. Dances with Wolves.
So, okay, my aunt loves Kevin Costner and Richard Gere, Faz on it. And you know how the Iranians they put the everywhere?
Yes.
She kept calling it the dances with the wolves.
Isn't that like, was it your dad who kept calling the kids are all right, the children are fine?
The children are fine. What is it? We liked that movie. I liked it. Yes, it was good.
Total Recall.
No, you've never seen Total Recall? That's a very silly movie.
Misery.
Oh, that's the movie that messed my sister up.
I don't know if I could. That sounds like it would be tough for James Levino to watch.
Jimmy Caan.
Jimmy Caan again, yeah. He's the golden thread that weaves through this whole series. Days of Being Wild. Wong Kar-wai.
Which one is that? That's the early one is Tony Leung in that one, or is it before the Tony Leung days?
Don't know.
That's early Wong Kar-wai. Okay.
Here's another big one, very 1990. Ghost.
Oh, the Patrick Swayze. You've never seen Ghost? God.
I think that's the one.
No, I don't think I can watch The Ghost again. I'm not fucking watching that pants movie again.
Jane Campion's An Angel at My Table.
Okay, that's interesting. That's maybe my front runner so far. Well, I don't know. The Two Jakes is looking pretty good, actually. I gotta say.
Here's one I know your aunt will like. Pretty Woman.
You've never seen Pretty Woman.
No, too scary.
What a fucking idiot. How is it possible?
I don't know. I honestly don't know with some of these.
Okay, Pretty Woman. I mean, I have no desire to see Pretty Woman again, but
Reversal of Fortune.
ooh, you've never seen that. Jeremy Irons. That's a good one.
That's Glenn Close. That's a trilogy. We'd have a Glenn Close trilogy there. She was in her heyday.
That's a good movie. But again, yeah, very much of its time.
And then finally, Slacker.
Oh, Slacker's very good.
So nothing that totally jumps out, it seems.
Yeah. The thing is, there's a lot of big movies on there, like you say, Ghost and Pretty Woman and Dances with Wolves. Those are three like kind of iconic movies of this time, of this era.
Yeah.
None of which I really want to watch again or have anything to say about, I don't think. The one that's most ridiculous for you not to have seen on this list is Pretty Woman. Because culturally, it's like, it's the fairy tale
Right.
rom-com of
But
its
probably having seen it, my reaction would be like, oh, okay, now I've seen Pretty Woman. Yeah.
It's also, I don't think it will have aged very well.
All right, let me run the list quickly. Total Recall, Misery, Days of Being Wild.
Days of Being Wild, I think there are more interesting Wong Kar-wai movies. Like, I'm guessing you haven't seen Chungking Express, and I'm guessing you haven't seen Fallen Angels.
Okay, you don't have to say it with that tone. Jesus
I'm just saying,
Christ.
if a guy hasn't seen Pretty Woman, it's not a hard
Well,
bet.
that's true, but I have seen In the Mood for Love.
You've seen In
I've
the
seen it
Mood
a
for
couple
Love.
times,
I'm sure you've
and
seen
that's-
it. Yeah, right.
Why again with the tone?
Because
like,
that's the one that everyone's seen.
but okay, I'm sorry everyone's seen it. I'm just saying it's a good movie. Amazing music. Amazing
It's a
music.
great movie.
It's one of
It's
the
a
best
masterpiece.
uses of music in a movie, I think.
Yes, I would agree. It's an amazing movie, and if you hadn't seen it, any year that showed up would be that one.
An Angel at My Table, Reversal of Fortune, Slacker, The Two Jakes.
I would say I'm between. I mean, Reversal of Fortune.
That's Jeremy Irons, isn't it?
Yeah, Jeremy Irons as Klaus von Bülow.
Right.
It's kind of melodramatic, court case. You know,
Ooh, melodramatic and a court case.
it's the
right up my
movie you
alley.
would enjoy the most of these, definitely.
Uh-huh.
I think An Angel at My Table is interesting. Maybe I would go with An Angel at My Table, I think. Because it's a woman director. Have we done a woman director? I don't think we have. And it's an interesting movie. I haven't seen it in a long time. Yeah. I think An Angel at My Table is good. If you gave me the list and said, which one would you like to watch tonight? I would actually probably like to watch The Two Jakes again. Just because it was on my radar. But that's no reason to do it. Let's do Jane Campion.
Go balloons, more balloons, all balloons. Come on, guys, let's move it. We need more balloons. I want all balloons to go, god damn it. What the hell? There's nothing falling. What the fuck are you guys doing up there?
The idea that you guys launch balloons at a political... I don't think any other country does this. Like this sort of thing. Like, I don't think Thatcher ever came down the steps to like a million,
No, although one of the cringiest things I've seen in recent years was Theresa May coming on stage at the Tory convention, whenever that, like 6 or 8 years ago. And she comes on dancing to some like...
Oh yeah, it was so bad.
Oh my gosh, it's so terrible.
Yeah.
It's like that Windows 95 launch
Oh
video with Steve Ballmer and Bill Gates.
Yeah, very bad. But no balloons. The whole thing of the conventions is like these kind of there's just some weird undercurrents in this country's politics.
Burn it all down.
Yeah.
All right, is that it? I guess that's it.
Angel at My Table. That's good. I like it.
Talk to you soon, I guess.
Sounds good.
Cheers, bye. that's that. Next time, we head to the other side of the world for Jane Campion's An Angel at My Table. It's a biographical drama about New Zealand author Janet Frame. And before now, I'd never heard of the film or even of Frame herself. Had you? Should be pretty interesting. Check it out if you have a chance. Bye for now.